Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Hub. Today's story is one of my favorites.
It all started with Daphne, my best friend since college, who has this annoying habit of being right about everything. She'd been nagging me for weeks about this first aid class at the community center. Esmum, you need to get out more, she'd say, hands on her hips in that way that meant she wasn't taking no for an answer. When's the last time you did something for yourself? I'd roll my eyes and remind her that I had fibromyalgia, that crowded places exhausted me, that I preferred the safety of my own home. But Daphne, bless her persistent heart, wouldn't let it go. It's a first aid class, not a funeral. She hissed the night she practically dragged me through those community center doors. The room smelled like industrial coffee and hope you know that particular scent of places where people gather to better themselves. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting that unflattering glow on a circle of folding chairs. I slouched into one, arms crossed, already planning my escape. Then she walked in. Lucy Price. I didn't know her name yet, but I knew immediately that she was going to be trouble. She had this dark ponytail that swung when she moved, a stethoscope draped around her neck like a badge of honor, and this grin god. That grin could have powered the entire building. Good evening, everyone. Her voice was warm honey, confidence, wrapped in kindness. I'm Lucy, and I'm going to teach you how to save lives tonight. She scanned the room, and when her eyes landed on me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. That electric spark, that moment when the universe shifts just slightly off its axis. You, she pointed directly at me, that grin widening. You'll be my CPR dummy? My pulse spiked, and not from the exertion of getting up from my chair. As I walked to the front of the room, I caught Daphne's knowing smirk. She'd orchestrated this somehow, I was sure of it. But as Lucy positioned me on the practice mat, her hands professional yet gentle, I found I didn't care about Daphne's matchmaking. Schemes, don't worry, Lucy whispered, close enough that I could smell her perfume, something light and clean like spring rain. I'll be gentle with you. The double meaning hung in the air between us, and I felt heat creep up my neck. At 53, I was blushing like a teenager. For the next hour, Lucy taught us chest compressions, rescue breathing, how to recognize the signs of a heart attack. But all I could focus on was the way her hands moved with such certainty, the way she made everyone feel capable and important, the way she looked at me like I was the most interesting person in the room. When class ended, I lingered, pretending to organize my purse while the other students filtered out. So, Lucy said, starting to pack up her supplies, how did you find tonight? Informative, I managed, which was the understatement of the century. Thank you for making me feel comfortable. She paused, really looking at me for the first time without the barrier of professional instruction between us. What's your name? Esma Chen. Esma, she repeated, and the way she said it made my name sound like music. I hope you'll come back next week. We're covering burns and fractures. I nodded, even though I'd had no intention of returning. I'll be here. As I walked to my car, Daphne caught up with me, practically bouncing with excitement. Did you see the way she looked at you? She squealed. There were sparks flying all over that room. Don't be ridiculous, I said, but my heart was still racing. She's just a good teacher. Azum-chan, I've known you for 30 years. You haven't looked that alive since ... wow, since ever. I wanted to argue, but deep down, I knew she was right. Something had awakened in me tonight, something I thought had died along with my marriage 15 years ago. 3 weeks later, I'd attended every class. I told myself it was about the knowledge, about being prepared for emergencies. But really, I was addicted to those Tuesday evenings, to Lucy's laugh, to the way she'd catch my eye across the room and smile like we shared a secret. I'd learned that she was 38, lived alone with a cat named Buster, and had been a nurse for 12 years. She loved terrible reality TV, made the best chocolate chip cookies in the county, and had this way of tilting her head when she was thinking that made my chest tight with affection. Not that I was falling for her. That would be ridiculous. I was a middle-aged woman with a chronic illness and a mortgage. She was vibrant and young and could have anyone she wanted. The fire started at 3 a.m. on a Thursday in October. I woke to the acrid smell of smoke and that awful crackling sound that meant trouble. My smoke detector was shrieking, and when I stumbled out of bed, I could see orange light flickering under my bedroom door. The hallway was already filling with smoke. I grabbed my medication bag priorities when you have fibromyalgia and crawled toward the front door. The heat was overwhelming, and I could feel my lungs seizing up, my body going into that familiar shutdown mode that happened when I was overwhelmed. I made it outside just as the ceiling in my living room collapsed with a thunderous crash. I stood on my front lawn in my pajamas, watching my life go up in flames, coughing so hard I thought I might pass out. Then I heard my name. Esmo. Oh, God, Esma. Lucy was running across the lawn in her own pajamas pink with little cats on them. I noticed even in my panic her hair wild, her face pale with fear. Are you hurt? Did you breathe in much smoke? Her hands were already on me, professional even in her panic, checking my pulse, looking into my eyes with a pen light she'd apparently grabbed from her house. I'm okay, I croaked, though I wasn't sure that was true. She wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. Where had she gotten a blanket? And pulled me against her side. Breathe with me, she said, her voice steady and calm. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Just like I taught you. And for the first time in years, surrounded by the chaos of fire trucks and neighbors and the wreckage of my life, I could breathe. You live 3 doors down, I said, suddenly realizing. I do. She was smoothing my hair back from my face, her touch gentle. I heard the sirens and came running. When I saw it was your house, ... double quotes, she trailed off, shaking her head. You came. Running, I repeated, something warm blooming in my chest that had nothing to do with the fire. Of course I did. We stood there in the pre-dawn darkness, her arms around me, watching the fire department work. The flames were mostly out now, but my house was gutted. Everything I owned gone. You'll stay with me tonight, Lucy said, and it wasn't a question. I couldn't impose, Esme. She turned me to face her, her hands on my shoulders. You're not imposing. You're letting me help someone I care about. Someone I care about. The words echoed in my head as she led me to her house, as she made me tea and found me clothes to wear, as she tucked me into her guest bed like I was something precious. Just until you're back on your feet, Lucy had said about me staying with her. Temporary. But temporary stretched into days, then weeks, then months. My insurance company was fighting the claim, and contractors were backed up for months. Lucy never complained, never made me feel like a burden. Instead, she made room for me in her life with an ease that should have been impossible. She cleared out half her closet without me asking. She stocked her medicine cabinet with my prescriptions. She learned to make the exact kind of tea I liked when my fibromyalgia was flaring. You don't have to do all this, I told her one evening, as she rubbed my shoulders after a particularly bad day. I want to, she said simply. Besides, I like having you here. The house feels less empty. We fell into a routine that felt dangerously like domesticity. Lucy would come home from her shifts at the hospital, and I'd have dinner, waiting nothing fancy, just whatever I could manage with my limited energy. We'd eat together, talking about her day, about books we'd read, about everything and nothing. The evenings were my favorite. We'd curl up on her couch with a bottle of wine or a cup of tea, watching terrible reality TV or old movies. Lucy would commentate on the medical accuracy of hospital dramas, making me laugh until my sides hurt. That's not how defibrillators work, she'd mutter at the screen. You can't just shock someone back to life from a flatline. You're ruining the magic, I'd tease, and she'd grin at me with that smile that made my heart skip beats. It was during one of these evenings that I realized I was in trouble. Deep, complicated, no going back trouble. Lucy was laughing at something ridiculous happening on the screen, her head thrown back, completely unself-conscious. Her hair had fallen out of its ponytail, and there was a small scar on her chin that I'd never noticed before. She was beautiful, yes, but more than that, she was alive in a way that made me want to be alive too. What? She asked, catching me staring. Nothing, I said quickly. Just ... thank you for everything. Something shifted in her expression, became more serious. Esmo, I need to tell you something. My heart started racing. Was she going to ask me to leave? Had I overstayed my welcome? The first night you came to class, she said slowly, I noticed you immediately. You looked so reluctant to be there, but also curious, like you were hoping for something but didn't want to admit it. I admitted. I kept hoping you'd come back. Not just for the class, but I wanted to get to know you. Lucy, I know this is complicated. I know there's an age difference, and I know you're dealing with your health issues, and I know I'm supposed to be the caregiver here, but I kissed her. It wasn't planned. It wasn't smooth. I just leaned over and pressed my lips to hers, cutting off her worried rambling with the only response that mattered. She went still for a moment, and I thought I'd made a terrible mistake. Then her hands came up to cup my face, and she kissed me back with a hunger that made my entire body sing. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, she rested her forehead against mine. I was hoping you'd do that, she whispered. Where? You? I've been thinking about it for weeks. I laughed, giddy with relief and desire. Only weeks? I've been thinking about it since that first night. Then we've been wasting a lot of time. She was right. We had been... What followed was the most intense, passionate, tender relationship of my life. Lucy approached loving me with the same focus and dedication she brought to everything else, completely and without reservation. She learned my body like she'd learned anatomy with patience and fascination. She knew exactly where to touch me when my fibromyalgia was acting up, how to make me feel desired instead of damaged. She made me remember that I was a woman, not just a patient. You're so beautiful, she'd whisper against my skin, and I'd almost believe her. I'm old, I protest. I'm broken. You're experienced, she'd correct. You're seasoned, you're perfect. The sex was revelatory. I'd forgotten how it felt to be wanted, to be treasured. Lucy worshipped my body with a devotion that made me cry sometimes, overwhelmed by the intensity of being truly seen. But it wasn't just physical. We talked for hours, sharing our fears and dreams and the small, mundane details that make up a life. I told her about my ex-husband, who'd left when my illness became too much of an inconvenience. She told me about her ex-girlfriend, who'd wanted her to be less dedicated to her job. I've always been too much, Lucy said one night, tracing patterns on my chest as we lay in bed. Too intense, too caring, too invested in my work. You're not too much for me, I said, and meant it. You're exactly right. We were happy in a way that felt almost dangerous, like we were tempting fate. And as it turned out, we were. The first sign of trouble came in the form of a phone call. Lucy had been at work, and I was at home when her phone rang. This is Janet from the hospital administration, the voice said when I answered. I need to speak with Lucy immediately. She's working her shift. Can I take a message? There was a pause. Who is this? I'm a friend. I'm staying with her temporarily. Another pause, longer this time. I see. Please have her call me as soon as possible. It's urgent. The second sign came that evening when Lucy walked through the door looking like she'd seen a ghost. "We need to talk," she said, and my blood turned to ice. She sat down heavily on the couch, still in her scrubs, and I could see her hands shaking. "Someone reported us," she said without preamble, "to the nursing board. They're saying I'm in an inappropriate relationship with a former patient." "Former patient? I was never your patient. You were a student in my first aid class." Apparently, that's enough to constitute a professional relationship. I felt the world tilting underneath. What does that mean? It means they're launching an investigation. It means my job is at risk. It means she buried her face in her hands. It means they're saying I manipulated you, that I took advantage of your vulnerability after the fire. That's ridiculous. I was on my feet, pacing. "You didn't manipulate me. If anything, I pursued you. It doesn't matter what really happened. It matters what it looks like." The investigation was swift and brutal. The local newspaper picked up the story: small town nurse in inappropriate relationship with elderly patient, and suddenly we were the subject of gossip and speculation. Elderly patient. At 53. As if I was some helpless old woman who couldn't make her own decisions. Lucy was placed on administrative leave while the board conducted their investigation. She tried to hide how devastated she was, but I could see it in the way she moved through the house like a ghost, in the way she'd stare at her nursing credentials hanging on the wall. "I became a nurse to help people," she said one night, tears streaming down her face. "It's all I've ever wanted to do, and now ... This will blow over," I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. "They'll see that there was nothing inappropriate about our relationship." But there was, wasn't there? She looked at me with anguish. "I was supposed to be helping you, and instead I fell in love with you. I was supposed to be professional, and instead I was thinking about kissing you every time I saw you. Lucy, what if they're right? What if I did take advantage of you? Stop." I grabbed her hands, forcing her to look at me. "I'm 53 years old. I'm not some helpless victim. I chose this. I chose you. Every day I choose you." But the damage was done. The whispers followed us everywhere. People stared when we went to the grocery store. Former friends crossed the street to avoid us. The job offer came from a hospital in Atlanta. Lucy's former supervisor, who'd moved there the previous year, had heard about the situation and wanted to help. "It's a good position," Lucy said, staring at the offer letter. "Better pay, better benefits. And it's far enough away that ... that no one will know about us." That's not what I meant. But it was exactly what she meant, and we both knew it. "You should take it," I said, even though the words felt like they were tearing my throat. "You deserve better than this small-minded." "Cal, I can't leave you. You can't stay. Not like this. Look at what it's doing to you." She was losing weight, barely sleeping. The stress was eating her alive, and I couldn't stand to watch it anymore. "It's just temporary," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Just until this blows over?" "Of course," I agreed, though we both knew that some things, once broken, can't be fixed. The night before she left, we made love with a desperation that left us both in tears. We held each other until dawn, memorizing the feel of skin against skin, the sound of each other's breathing. "I love you," she whispered as the sun came up. "I love you too. I'll call every day. I know. I'll come back. I know." But standing in her driveway, watching her drive away with her life packed into the back of her car, I wasn't sure I believed it. The first month after Lucy left was the longest of my life. The house felt enormous and empty. I'd moved back into my rebuilt home, but everywhere I looked, I saw her absence. The kitchen where she'd made me breakfast, the couch where we'd watched movies, the bed where we'd discovered each other. I called in sick to work more often then. I should have spending days in bed with the curtains drawn. My fibromyalgia flared worse than it had in years, as if my body was mourning too. Daphne tried to help. She brought me meals, forced me to shower, sat with me when the silence became too much to bear. You have to fight, she said one afternoon, finding me still in my pajamas at 3 p.m. This isn't like you. What's not like me? Giving up? You've never given up on anything in your life. I'm not giving up. I'm accepting reality. Reality is that you love each other. Reality is that you're both miserable apart. Reality is that this town is full of small-minded people who can't mind their own business. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. She sat down beside me, her voice gentle but firm. Since when do you let other people dictate how you live your life? The question haunted me. When had I become so passive? When had I decided that other people's opinions mattered more than my own happiness? That night, I opened my laptop and started typing. Not a letter to Lucy, I wasn't ready for that yet, but a letter to the nursing board, to the newspaper, to anyone who would listen. I wrote about ageism, about the assumption that older women couldn't make their own decisions about love and sexuality. I wrote about the difference between professional misconduct and two consenting adults finding each other. I wrote about the witch hunt that had driven away one of the most compassionate, skilled nurses our community had ever had. I wrote until my fingers ached, until the sun came up, until I'd said everything I needed to say. Then I hit send. The response was immediate and polarized. Some people were supportive, praising my courage and agreeing that the situation had been handled poorly. Others were vicious, calling me everything from a desperate old woman to a predator enabler. I didn't care. For the first time in months, I felt alive. The local paper agreed to print an expanded version of my letter as an op-ed. I did a radio interview with a station in the state capital. A blogger who specialized in LGBTQ+ issues wrote a piece about age discrimination in same-sex relationships. I'm proud of you, Daphne said, reading the comments on the blog post. You're raising hell. I'm raising awareness, I corrected. There's a difference, is there? Because it looks like hell-raising to me. She was right. I was raising hell, and it felt incredible. The nursing board agreed to meet with me. I put on my best suit, the one I'd worn to job interviews and funerals, and I walked into that conference room like I owned it. Mrs. Chen, the board chair, began. We appreciate you taking the time to speak with us, but our investigation is complete. Your investigation was flawed from the beginning, I interrupted. You assume that because I'm older, because I have a chronic illness, because I was vulnerable after the fire, that I couldn't make my own decisions. You infantilized me. That's not. You destroyed the career of an exceptional nurse based on gossip and prejudice. Lucy Price helped save my life, and yes, I fell in love with her, but that doesn't make her a predator. It makes her human. I talked for 20 minutes, laying out my case with the precision of a lawyer and the passion of a woman in love. When I finished, the room was silent. We'll take your comments under advisement, the chair said finally. You'll do more than that, I said, standing up. You'll clear her name, or I'll make sure every newspaper in the state knows how this board treats its nurses. I walked out of that room feeling like I could conquer the world. The call came 3 weeks later. Lucy's voice was shaky, disbelieving. They dropped the investigation, she said. No evidence of professional misconduct. They're offering me my job back. That's wonderful, I said, though my heart was hammering. Are you going to take it? I don't know. Esma, I saw the articles, the interviews, what you did. I did what I should have done months ago. I fought for us. You fought for me. Same thing. There was a long silence. I'm scared, she admitted finally. Of what? of coming back and finding out that too. Much has changed, that we've changed. Only one way to find out. I love you, she said, and I could hear tears in her voice. I love you too. Come home, Lucy, please. She showed up at my door 2 days later, looking exactly as beautiful and exactly as nervous as I felt. We stared at each other for a long moment, taking inventory of the changes. She looked tired but determined. I probably looked the same. Hi, she said softly. Hi, I brought wine. Good, I made dinner. Good. We were still standing in the doorway, neither of us quite ready to cross the threshold back into whatever this was going to be. I missed you, she said finally. I missed you too. I mean, I really missed you. I dated someone in Atlanta, nothing serious, just I was lonely, but it made me realize that I don't want anyone else. I want you, just you. I didn't date anyone, I said. I was too busy becoming an activist. She laughed and the sound broke. Something loose in my chest. An activist, apparently. Daphne says I'm raising hell. Good. I like hell raising Esmond. Do you? Because I'm not sure I can go back to being the quiet, passive woman I was before. I don't want you to. She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume, that same clean scent that had haunted my dreams. I want this version of you, the one who fights, the one who doesn't give up, even if it means more controversy, more whispers. Let them whisper. I'm tired of living my life for other people. I kissed her then, there in my doorway, not caring who might see. She kissed me back with all the hunger and desperation of our separation, and I knew we were going to be okay. Lucy took the job back, but on her own terms. She negotiated for better pay, better hours, and a formal policy protecting healthcare. Workers from harassment based on their personal relationships. I'm not going to hide anymore, she told her supervisor. I'm in a relationship with a woman I love, and if that's a problem for anyone, they can take it up with the union. The town talked, of course, but something had shifted. My very public. Defense of our relationship had changed the conversation. Instead of whispers about inappropriate conduct, people were talking about love, about prejudice, about the right to choose your own path. Not everyone was convinced. We still got stares, still heard the occasional nasty comment. But we also got support from unexpected places. The young librarian who slipped me notes of encouragement. The elderly man at the grocery store who told me his gay son lived in fear of exactly this kind of judgment. The group of nurses who organized a petition supporting Lucy's reinstatement. You started something, Daphne said one evening as we sat on my porch, watching Lucy work in the garden. She'd planted. You gave people permission to stand up for love. I gave myself permission. I corrected. Everything else was just a side effect. Same thing. Maybe it was. 2 years later, Lucy moved in officially. Not because of circumstances or temporary arrangements, but because we chose to build a life together. She planted roses in the front yard and hung a wind chime on the porch. Her name went on the mailbox, and suddenly the house felt complete. We had a housewarming party, inviting everyone who'd supported us through the difficult times. Daphne gave a toast that made everyone cry. Lucy's colleagues from the hospital came, along with some of my former students from the first aid class. To Esm and Lucy, Daphne said, raising her glass, who proved that love doesn't have an expiration date and that the best stories are the ones we write for ourselves. Later, after everyone had gone home, Lucy and I sat on the porch swing, watching the sun set over our small town. Do you ever regret it? She asked, her head on my shoulder. All the drama, all the fighting. Never, I said without hesitation. Do you? Only that it took us so long to stop caring what other people think. We got there eventually. We did. A group of teenagers walked by, probably heading to some party or gathering. They glanced at us curiously, two women of different ages, sitting close together, obviously in love, but kept walking without comment. Progress, Lucy said softly, one day at a time. She turned to look at me, her eyes warm in the fading light. I love you, Esmond. I love you too, Lucy Price. What do you want to do tomorrow? Whatever we want, I said. That's the beauty of it. We get to choose, and we did. Every day we chose each other. Every day we chose love. Every day we chose to write our own story, regardless of what anyone else thought about it. The town still whispered sometimes, but as Lucy kissed me goodnight on our front porch, under the stars and the roses and the wind chime that sang in the evening breeze, I realized I didn't care what they said. Let them talk. We had better things to do.